Hey there, it's Coach MK. I don't even know what day it is anymore, how long we've been into this. Last week was real busy. You might have seen we opened up Build, and it is heavily subscribed. Went over well. But of course, with success is always going to come a little bit of snafu. And we had a bunch. We had tested everything before we deployed, thought everything was ready, seemed like it was, and then it wasn't. So, and to fix those things, we would have to edit the website. And unfortunately, when you're editing the website, that means I cannot get in to make changes for the month. And the reason all of this matters, and by the way, the workout videos have still not uploaded. I've recorded them twice, and YouTube just isn't loving them. It's like it'll go. I'll sit there and watch it for an hour. I'll think it's fine. I'll walk away from the computer, and then it's like, upload failed. So I've been doing the best that I can, thinking like, oh, I just need a little more time that'll fix it. And somehow time and effort really hasn't done it. So this morning, and this is the example of, I'm going to get to that example first, but let me say a bit about having ADHD. I went public with my diagnosis a while ago, and that was a little over a year ago. And that's something that I'd always kept to myself, though I think anyone who spends a modicum of time in my purview, particularly during my pregnancies when I was completely unable to take my medication, I think it speaks for itself. I think it's kind of obvious. I very much fit the profile of your standardized typical person with the diagnosis. And I'm careful to say diagnosis because I really don't think of it as a disease. It just means I'm not neuronormative. My cylinders fire more frequently than those of your average human. The vibe where I live tends to be quite a bit higher. And it's something that we have to monitor because, don't want to be swinging back and forth. But I tend to be either here, keyed up, or here, which is on par. My calm is where everyone else considers to be their excited. And I don't think this is a bad thing at all. But one thing I do know is that ADHD is a malfunction of your executive functions. That makes sense. So the diagnosis exists for a reason because there is a downside that comes with it. The downside is mitigated enough that I am aware of it and can manage it more successfully with medication. But one thing I can tell you, once you have this diagnosis, you got it because you were falling behind. And you stuck with whatever you had to be failing at something to get the diagnosis. And then success is determined by whether or not you stop failing at that thing. So a perception that I'm always having to dance around once someone becomes aware of my diagnosis, or anyone who's had to deal with the backside of my diagnosis, is being late. It adds an added layer of anxiety for me. I really hate being late, being behind with something that I have promised to do. Because odds are pretty good. People like to say, well, if it was important, you would remember it. And that's just unfair and cruel to someone who is not neuronormative, okay, and is willing to tell you about it. So all of this is kind of coming to play in this morning, where I'm already a little bit nervous because this thing that I normally have done and unfortunately can't pass off to anyone else. I mean, I could if I could get the videos to them, but to get the videos to them, I would have to upload them somewhere to something, and none of that's working either. So this morning when I realized that the videos have failed yet again and that I'm behind on one of my deliverables to my clients at Fitness Protection, I am really stressed out. I look at my husband and I feel my anxiety rising, like, oh no, this wasn't done yet again. I thought it was all going to load overnight and everything would be fine. I'd even scheduled a post to be like, hey guys, it's fine. Look here. I'd take that post down while looking at my husband and saying, I gotta fix this. I don't know what to do. And as I feel that anxiety rising, my children all start talking to me. One, because I'm talking to my husband. So whatever's in their head must be it must be stopped. Whatever's in their head has to come out right then. Two, my son picks that moment to start his go noodle exercise, which is very, very loud and works up the baby. And three, I'm hearing all of this. I'm stressed out. My husband, with all this input coming at him, it stresses him out. And I feel, along with this rising anxiety, a sinking feeling that now I can't fix this thing that I need to do because there's too much going on. I'm not going to be able to fix it. And as I feel that sinking thing back to that familiar space that I had became really familiar with in high school and in college of, oh, I failed just like I was expected to. Well, here we go again. And that was that moment where I took a deep breath, because that's the important part. One, awareness. And you hear this, you don't hear this really much outside of like Alcoholics Anonymous or any other sort of self-help program, but like awareness really is key. So once I became aware and I felt that sinking feeling, that was the trigger for me to start to pull this tool out of my kit, which is a deep breath that is so loud. All I can focus on it is that sound that I'm making. And it's kind of awkward and a little bit odd. And it's odd enough that anyone can hear it is going to stop what they're doing because they're like, what's she doing? They just don't know how to respond to it, which is the idea. So instead of scaring them into silence, I'm doing this purely for me because it's not about making them compliant. It's about getting back to a place, just that moment, to stop the rising anxiety and the falling rock to the pit of my stomach. And it sounds that simple. That doesn't fix everything, but that pulls me out of the moment enough for my husband to look at me and say, I'll get everyone downstairs. Maybe instead of filming the whole week, do one and you're good. And that's exactly what we did. It's not perfect. I don't love it. We're trying to work out exactly how we're going to get. We don't want to do this every single morning because getting all 4 kids outside while mommy's inside doing something is almost impossible. And trying to upload anything at night is almost impossible because everybody in the whole free world does their howl out the window and then goes to turn on Netflix. So if anything I can't upload during the day, it's clearly that much harder at night. But we're going to figure it out. The one thing I can do is live stream. And if I have to live stream, that's what I'm going to do. I like this. I don't mind it. I would do this every day. So I tell you all of that to tell you this. It's a day that ends in Y. I don't remember which day it is or how far into this whole episode we actually are. But I do know that anxiety compounds. It compounds faster with a non-neuronormative diagnosis like ADHD. And my ADHD tools are the things that I use in these moments to quell my anxiety, because my anxiety will bump up against all of the issues that come along with this particular diagnosis and the failures required in order to receive it. So my 2 cents, if you're watching this and you're parenting a child with ADHD and you're having to homeschool them right now, that fear of, not even fear of failure, we just accept it. I'm going to fail because we are being told that we have to do things the way other people do or else we failed. And we already know that's not going to work. So this is a real opportunity to get to know your child better and to help them figure out, or let them tell you what works if they know, and to work together to sort of figure that out. Your kid knows more than they think they do, that they just don't usually have the space in a typical school setting to ask for it, which is not to demonize teachers. I would not have known what to do with me either. I got very lucky that being in a small town and a small school, they would let me sit outside the classroom and do my work at my own pace. That's kind of an option right now, but only when executive function is working. And you know for sure that work's going to get done. So that's all I have to say about ADHD. That's my 2 cents. But just know that most of us have a high level of anxiety most of the time, because we never know when that next request is going to come. And you think what you think is a simple request to us is a signal of something we're about to fail at. And it is real. Every time someone asks me to do something, I'm like, because everyone says, I don't care how it's done. I just need it to get done. Y'all don't mean it. Normies never mean it. Because if it's not done the way you expect it to be done, or in the timing you expect it to be done, all of this is where the moralistic expectations come out, that you don't like it, you didn't hear me, you don't care, you don't consider this as important, you don't understand the weight of this assignment, you don't understand the value of college, which all of a sudden goes right to our stupidity or our inability to process the world around us. It exists, but trying to put more pressure on it isn't going to undo the ADHD. Just like for a normative person, more stress and more pressure does not necessarily improve the outcome, but it can break your body as well as your spirit in the process. That I know you've heard before, because you're coached and you're loved. And even on days when nothing is working, you are winning at life. especially if you're aware.